they are guests of honor at our home right now. And tomorrow, we're having a ball. We'll be celebrating those princes. We'll be celebrating the victory out in the Ohio territory. And we're also going to be honoring the Queen and all sorts of other things, including the fact that Lord and Lady Denmark just had a baby here in the palace. So we're celebrating so many things that we're hoping that people will just sort of forget about politics for a time and have a lovely time at the ball. So I'm glad you're all here. A day early for the ball, but I hope you'll all stay for us. I do hope so. Well, come in. I'll show you around the house. If you have any questions, ask at any point. Pianoforte, baby bed, all of those. The house itself will burn in 7 days. We'll have to rebuild that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. There you go. What do you think of this room?
So far.
Yes, it is. This is silk damask on the walls. This is from England. Very expensive. You could make lovely gowns out of that, but instead, they're buying it to put on their walls, so it's very grand. So,
Yeah.
good Lord. And
I wonder what the hole in the wall is for.
Well, I mean, you gotta remember that they're entirely hand-built with handmade paint. Our profit margin on that is ridiculously low. Because this is a museum, we're not in the business of making money.
Right.
I mean, if I was running my own wheelwright shop privately, using machinery to do half the work, I'd charge you at least $6,500–7,000 that fair. I mean, it's just, that's what good quality work's gonna cost me.
But to be able to still manufacture it by hand is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, handwork will never completely die in the wheelwrighting business if you want good work. Now, if you're not really concerned with quality, you know, you can do all the work with machines on sort of
Wheels that are just supposed to sit there, not actually.
Had a friend of mine who was a leather maker, and he used to say that if you want good quality, you had to pay for it. However, if you know, it's like buying horse feed.
Sure.
If you want good quality horse feed, you have to pay for it. If you don't mind it having been through the horse once, it comes cheaper.
It's good. I like that.
I love these little wood vices and.
Yeah, our benches are copied off of, you know, sort of a couple different extant benches. Finding original 18th century workbenches that you can say confidently are that old is tricky. There are a few, and most of them we have basically never left the shops they were in. The shops they were in are really well documented as having existed. That one's a direct copy off of one of 3, I think, benches that was in the Dominy family shop. Dominys were a family of really cabinet makers and joiners in Long Island, East End of Long Island. Starting in the I think they set up shop in the 50s or 60s. So, and then one day in the 20th century, one of them locked the door and walked away. In there.
Years, that's what people had to put up with, was shoes that when you bought one, you had a left one and a right one. Of course, it's very bad for the foot. They didn't know that then. And they also didn't know that they didn't have good materials like we have to work here. With the English leather that we get from Great Britain is very, very good in quality. And that's really what led to the new way of doing things. You see those lasts back there? Those wooden forms? Those are what we wrapped the leather around. And up until Shakespeare's day, and you've heard of Billy Shakespeare, all right? All right, up until Billy Shakespeare's day, about 1580, those were always carved left and right. So you bought them as a pair, so you would buy your shoes as a pair. But somebody got the idea, because the leather was so good by the time Shakespeare was around, that somebody got the idea, you know, we could carve those lasts straight. It'd be a lot cheaper. That was a good idea from an economy standpoint. But what we found out is it actually makes a much, much more comfortable shoe, because you're getting much more room for your toes, well, you can see it here, with a straight lasted shoe than you do with one that's bent left or right. And then after you wear it for an hour or two, it clearly does become left or right, but whose left or right does it become?
Yours.
Exactly. So it's a much better way of making shoes. We've been doing it that way for 200 years. And Lord willing, we'll never go back to making shoes left and right, or you probably have to come up with an entire profession of medicine just for the human foot. Very uncivilized practice.
Like podiatry.
Yes.
Everybody does, don't they?
Mhm.
Do you buy a left stocking and a right stocking?
No, I
You don't have to, because of the shape of your foot, right?
Right.
Now, let us suppose, for the sake of argument, that your shoes were made, or your stockings were made of a sufficiently rigid material that you had to buy a left one and a right one just to get your feet into them. How tempted do you think you'd be to sit around the house in a pair of stockings? Probably not very tempted. So, perhaps what we expect of our stockings, we should expect of our shoes. And we here in the colonies and over in Great Britain do exactly that.
Laws. They serve at the king's leisure. So some are here in God in no time, some are here 20, 22 years more, whatever the king wants. His upper house is the governor's council, those landed gentry, very powerful Virginians. They're his advisors. And they're very much those first family names in Virginia you've heard before, like Randolph, Lee, Harrison, and Carter. One time, 9 out of 12 of those men were related to each other by blood of marriage. These are those fellows with all the acres of land and growing all the tobacco. They're shipping that tobacco over to England, paying duties and taxes, which means they're making the king rich. So the king wants to keep them real happy. So they're so powerful they got together on more than one occasion, petitioned the king and royal governors removed from office. The lower house is the house of burgesses. They're the representatives of the people. So I was saying to these folks, if you don't remember anything else about coming to Williamsburg or Jamestown, please remember that it was a Jamestown in 1619, the site of the first elected representative government in North America. So it makes it so important. That's why we're here. That's what we're going to be talking about the next 20, 25 minutes. So while Jamestown is the capital city, by the way, this place was called Middle Plantation. Good name for it. It's in between the James and the York River. The church was here, the college was here, houses and taverns. During the commencement exercises at the College of William and Mary, the boys asked the government to move to Middle Plantation. Their state house had burned down 4 times. They're still living in a swamp. Guess they thought it was a good idea. They'll come here and incorporate the city in 1704 when the jail and the capitol were finished. The city itself was designed by then Royal Governor Francis Nicholson. You may have noticed as you looked at a map and walked through town, he designed the city in the shape of a cross with a church of the crux of the cross. And he names that street Francis and that one Nicholson. He names the main street in honor of Queen Anne, then reigning monarch, her only surviving child. Get this door. Any questions so far? I think we're doing pretty good. It's time to get started. Good day to you. My name is Claudia. I hope you enjoy seeing the Capitol with me this morning. Please let me know if you have any questions. And I'll travel through time. I'm going to talk mostly in the time of June 12, 1776, creating this new republic and some of the ways we're going to create our new government. But let's get back to this one. Transportation agreement. And the second one was held in Richmond. In March of 1775, last year, it was there in a call to arms that Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." And as soon as those words were out of his mouth, Virginians have been getting ready for war ever since. Independent companies of soldiers started marching and drilling in every county and city, including right here on Palace Green in front of the governor's nose. By law, he could do nothing to stop it. The 5th Virginia Convention was held just last month, May 15th, which then decided that by a unanimous vote, the delegates wanted to send the message to the Continental Congress to go ahead and vote for independence, as these independent colonies will be. And, but also, they decided they wanted a form of government created, a plan. We'll call it a constitution. And along with that, a Declaration of Rights for Virginians, setting out the rights for individuals. Rights that the government can't take away from an individual. It hasn't been done in this country before. Now, Great Britain has had a Declaration of Rights for decades before. Their Declaration of Rights pretty much says the king has the right to do this, the king has the right, maybe the king will give you some rights. Our Declaration of Rights is different. As I said, they've just passed the vote this morning after 3 readings on 16 of 18 articles that were presented. Now, these 36 gentlemen that created this document, the eldest statesman is George Mason, the youngest James Madison. George Mason has been telling us that over the first 2 days of these 4 days, these fellows mostly went around the taverns, drinking and gossiping, didn't get any work done. He's not happy. He went to his lodgings and started to create this document, and we're going to give him credit for most of these articles. One I would just like to share, the first one. It says that all men are by nature equally free and independent, have certain inherent rights of which, when they enter into a state of society, they cannot by any compact acquire or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. Does that mean do not put soldiers on my property? My home, my property, I have the right to be safe in my own home. I have the right to decide what makes me happy in my home. And make some changes. The courts are going to change some of the ideas. We're not going to get rid of everything. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Some of the ancient laws are accepted. Laws like a right to a trial by jury, peaceful assembly, and a right to protest your government. Those are ancient rights, and we're going to keep those. The last of the 16 articles says that religion, or the duty which we owe to our Creator, the matter of discharging it, can be directed only by reason and conviction, not by force or violence. Therefore, all men are equally entitled to the full exercise of religion according to the dictates of conscience. This mutual duty of all to practice Christian forbearance, love, and charity towards each other. Good words. The blessings of liberty can be preserved to any people, but by the firm adherence to justice, moderation, temperance, frugality, and virtue. Good words. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you very much for seeing the Capitol with me. Hope you enjoyed the tour, maybe even learned things.
A bunch of people, so you got to set up.
That's good. Hey, buddy. Trying to get a picture of what you got in there. Got like that corn. How many knives would you say you make a year, produce out of here?
It's never the same. It's whenever we need them. Whenever somebody needs one.
Now, what would it take to purchase one from a museum?
I have no idea. I don't generally make them for sale.
So it'd be for other museums or something that you'd be producing these?
Yeah, I mean, these are for us.
I see.